Dear students, in this lecture we will solve some examples on compound interest based on the formulae which we have studied in the previous lecture. Let us see some examples on compound interest. The first example is find the amount and compound interest. Find the amount and compound interest when rupees 18,000 is invested for 4 years at 7% per annum rate of interest compounded yearly, that is annually. So in all examples on compound interest, first you must decide period. So what is period? Period is here 1 year. And as usual, we will solve the example in 3 steps. So first step, you have to write down given things. So what are given things? Principal amount is rupees 18,000. As period is 1 year, number of periods in 1 year is equal to n. Now, as I already mentioned, first thing in compound interest examples is that you have to decide period. So here period is 1 year. After finding period, you also need to find values of r and n based on the formulae which we have seen in the previous lecture. If you don't remember, I request you to pause the video for a while and go back to the previous video and see the formulae. So formula is R is equal to rate of interest percent per annum divided by number of periods in 1 year. So R is equal to, in this case, is going to be equal to 7 upon 1, which is equal to 7, and n is, formula for n is number of years into number of periods in 1 year. Number of periods in 1 year is 1, as we have seen. So it is going to be equal to 4 into 1, that equals to 4. So first step, write given data and find period r and n. So this was our first step. Now second step, to write down the formula. So what is formula? Formula is A is equal to P 1 plus R upon 100 raised to N. Substitute the values. 18,000, principal amount is 18,000. 1 plus rate of value of R. So we have found the value of R, and that we are going to substitute here. It is 7. And we have also found the value of N, that we are going to substitute over here, 4. Okay, so it is equal to 18,000 multiplied by 1 plus 7 upon 100 is 0.07 raised to 4. So this is equal to 18,000 multiplied by 1.07 raised to 4. What is meaning of 1.07 raised to 4? So the meaning is that it is 1.07 raised to 4 equals to 1.07 into 1.07 into 1.07 into 1.07. So it is 1.07 multiplied by 4 times. And on calculator, I'm going to share you trick with soon with you to find this value easily on calculator. For the time being, you multiply 1.07 4 times and check whether you get this as 1.3108 or not. So as I had mentioned, this is going to be equal to 18,000 into 1.3108, and after multiplication check whether you get this as 23,594.40 or not. So let me erase this part and write down the answer. The answer is going to be A is equal to rupees 23,594.40. So 23,594 rupees and 40 paise is the answer. It is quite simple to calculate compound interest. It is A minus P. So this is going to be equal to difference of these two, and that is 5,594.40. So 5,594 rupees and 40 paise is compound interest. This is amount, and this is compound. This is compound interest. Okay, amount and compound interest we have found. Now, next example, we are going to solve the next few examples in similar fashion. Before we see the next example, let me share you the trick to calculate 1.07 raised to 4 on calculator. First, you have to type 1.07, then press multiplication button, and after that press equal to button 3 times. Why 3 times? Because already we have 1.07 one times, and 1 plus 3 equals to 4. So we have to press equal to button 3 times because we want the fourth power of 1.07 raised to 4. As an another example, suppose you have to calculate 1.07 raised to 8. Then first type 1.07 on calculator. Then press multiplication button once. Now this time you have to press equal to button 7 times. Why 7 times? Because we want 8th power. We already typed it once and we must type it 7 times. So 1 plus 7 equals to 8. So we'll get the value of 1.07 raised to 8. In this way you can find 8th power of 1.07. Let us see next example. As I mentioned, in examples of compound interest, first you must decide period. So what is period here? It is half year, that is 6 months. Then find out number of periods in 1 year. So number of periods in 1 year will be equal to 2. After that, you have to find values of R and N. So what is given? It is given that the principal amount is 18,000. It is invested for 4 years and the rate of interest is 7% per annum. Now to find R, we know the formula. It is rate of interest percent per annum divided by number of periods in 1 year. Rate of interest is 7. Number of periods in 1 year are 2. So it is going to be equal to 3.5. Next, n is equal to number of years, which is 4, into these values we are substituting here into number of periods in 1 year, that is equal to 2, which is equal to 8. So 4 years it is given. I will repeat the outline. It is important that you remember this outline. First decide period, then find number of periods in 1 year, and thereafter you find R and N. So in compound interest examples, first step is to always use this. Now secondly, we have to use the formula. So what is the formula? In second step, we'll write the formula. A is equal to P 1 plus R upon 100 raised to N. Now it is just a matter of calculation to substitute the values. So P is 18,000. 1 plus what value we have found for r? R is 3.5, that we are going to write it here, upon 100 raised to n. We also find the value of n, it is 8. It is 8. So in this way you do the calculations and verify that this equals to 1.035 raised to 8, and that will be equal to that will be equal to that will be equal to 1.3168. I request you to pause the video and do the calculations on your own and verify that this value comes as 23,702.40 or not. So the final answer that we are going to get is this. Amount will be equal to rupees 23,702.40. It is quite simple to find compound interest. It is a minus p, and after calculation you will find that compound interest is rupees 5,702.40. So we have seen two examples. In first example, the period was 1 year. In the second example, the period was half year. Now let us see the example in which the period is quarter year, that is 1/4 year. So in this example, the period is going to be 1 year. What is example? What is given is that 18,000 are invested for 4 years at 7% per annum rate of interest compounded quarterly. This is important. So what is period? Period is 1/4 year. So how many periods will be there in 1 year? Number of periods in 1 year will be equal to 4. As in the previous example, you have to find values of r and n. This time I am not going to explain all the things in detail because I have explained it for earlier two examples. So just substitute the values of r and n. What is value of r? It is 7. So 7 upon 4, that is equal to 1.75, and n is equal to number of years, that is 4, and number of periods in 1 year, so that is going to be equal to 16. So value of r is 1.75 and value of n is 16. This was our first part. This whole was our first part as we had done it in the previous two examples. Now, second part is to write down the formula. So in second part, write down the formula. A is equal to P 1 plus R upon 100 raised to n. Substitute the values. P is 18,000, so it is equal to 18,000. 1 plus value of R, which we have found as 1.75. So 1.75 upon 100. We have also found the value of n, it is 16. So do the calculations on your own. Please pause a video for a while. I request you to do the calculations on your own so that you will have the practice. And after calculations, verify that whether you get the amount as whether you get the amount as rupees 23,758.20, and it is fairly simple to calculate compound interest. The compound interest is going to be equal to, so the compound interest is going to be equal to a minus p, and that is equal to, after subtracting the principal from amount, you will get the interest. So 23,758.20 minus 18,000, and that comes as rupees 5,758.20. It is not enough to watch the videos. What is important to learn mathematics is to solve examples on your own. Let us go through the last example from the topic compound interest. In this example, the problem is to find compound interest for fourth year. It is not for 4 years. Not for 4 years. But what we have to find is interest for fourth year we have to find. So note that we don't have to find for 4 years, but we have to find for fourth year. The problem is to find compound interest on rupees 35,000 when the rate of interest is 9% per annum. So the idea is to find, I'm just going to explain you the outline. Idea is to note that it is rate of interest is not compounded yearly or annually. So the most important thing is to note that number of periods in 1 year is equal to 1. That's what we are going to find. So as usual, first find period, then find number of periods in 1 year, then find value of r, then n. So that will be our first step. So this is going to be first step. Now in second step, you will have to find A4 and A3. A4 and, as I mentioned, you have to find A4 and A3. So here the question is, what is A4? It is amount after 4 years. Amount after 4 years. And A3 is amount after 3 years. A3 is amount after 3 years. And if you subtract, so what will be the amount after first year? It will be A1. Amount after second year will be A2. So amount after first year is A1, amount after second year is A2, amount after third year is A3, and amount after fourth year is A4. And if you take their difference, so that difference will be A4 minus A3, and that will give us the compound interest for fourth year. So this is the idea involved in this example. I request you to pause the video, find A4 and A3, and after calculations, check whether you get A4 as, so the compound interest for fourth year will be A4 minus A3, and check whether you get A4 as rupees 49,406 and A3 as rupees 45,325, so that the compound interest for fourth year after taking their difference will be rupees 4,081. So finally answer is the compound interest for fourth year is equal to rupees 4,081. I have not explained you the calculations involved here, but I have explained you the outline. It is important to solve this example on your own for better understanding. Thank you.